Good morning, Revolution, comrades and friends, revolutionary fighters for a society of a new type, and our allies and colleagues and siblings, all very happy to see you. First thing I want to say is Happy Pride Month. I had to say it in the middle of the show last time, and I don't want to forget this time. So happy Pride Month. We are with you. We're celebrating with you. And we're going to keep on doing that, particularly in light of this fierce, extreme right attack on trans people. We don't want no parts of it. And, we posted a happy pride meme and on Instagram, and all these people, not a lot, but a few jokers, they must have been jokers because they said, how can you be a communist and support gay rights? That's not part of the class struggle. And I was like, number one, that's not true. And number two, so what if it's not? If people being oppressed, if you're oppressed because of who you love or your gender or the color of your skin, you know, or how tall you are or how short, what does it matter? The fact is you're a victim of oppression and the communists should stand with you. I remember Lenin once saying that you don't know around what issue the revolution is going to arise on. It might be a incident in the workplace. It might be somebody just getting beat up by the police. You don't know. You know. Remember the Arab Spring? That
Mhm.
started around a taxi driver getting beat up, if my memory serves me. So we all this narrow, so-called Marxist. It's a caricature of Marxism. That's what that is.
Yeah, and
Complete.
if you feel the need to like if Marxism means like limiting the number of places where we can fight for equality, that's not Marxism. That's not revolutionary. It's just
I was
backwards.
riffing, Scott, in case you didn't
Sorry.
notice.
Sorry about that.
I was ranting. It's okay. You just keep on saying what you want to say. It's all right. This is a free. This broadcast is a free zone, free speech zone. You say what you want.
A
So
safe
good
space.
morning, everybody. We got a lot to talk about. Big news yesterday. Mr. Trump was indicted second time. Hey, Trump, three strikes, you're out, man. Three indictments. You got one in New York. Now you got one, and looks like it's going to be in Florida. And the next one, well, January 6th, is going to be in D.C. And if one don't get you, the other will. And we're fondly calling this the send him to jail, lock him up edition. This is a lock him up edition. Rosanna, did you hear the news last night
I heard a lot of news. Which one? Which one?
about
Yeah.
Trump getting indicted?
Actually, you know what happened is I heard it on I saw it on TikTok where
Uh,
this woman was saying, "Okay, let's play a game." She says, "Every time he calls himself innocent, let's take a drink." So then she proceeded to roll the video of him calling himself innocent and that it's injustice and all of those kinds of things. So and every time he would call himself innocent, it would show a picture of her taking a drink. So yeah, I heard it.
21 shots. He must have done it 21
hmm
times.
she must have
Anita,
gotten
how did you
drunk.
react?
Well, I woke up in the middle of the night and saw the news, and it was really interesting, and I couldn't go back to sleep because it was such engaging reading. So it looks like this will take a long time to percolate, and I hope that the indictment is unsealed today so that they say they don't want Trump to frame it over the weekend. They want the indictment out there so that people know what's going on. So I hope that happens, and we'll be able to get a better sense of what kind of evidence they have. But what I don't understand is Jim Jordan, the congressperson from Lima, Ohio, uh, just completely defending Trump. Does he think that it's okay to, you know, to steal documents from the government and then hide them and move them around and show your friends at beach house parties? It's just amazing that how in the sand their heads are.
Where were you, Scott, when the indictment came down, and what did you think about it?
Um, my first thought, or my major thought, is about damn time, right? The number of times that the prospect of federal charges against Trump has been floated, I've lost count. But we have an indictment, 7 counts. Um, won't be the last, I'm pretty sure. Uh, but what I hope is that this thing is followed through seriously. That it's not, I've sometimes wondered in the past if um, this focus on legal action against Trump was less about actually getting a conviction or even an indictment than really just sort of a kind of propaganda measure designed to discredit him, hoping like in the court of public opinion or whatever that he would take a hit. I hope that's not what this is. I hope it's followed through seriously, and yeah, I hope he goes to jail.
Yeah, I was tired when I heard about it. I was like, I want to see the trial verdict. I want to see the trial. I want to see the sentencing. Um, and of course, that's because a lot of people are incredulous. You know, they say, oh, they indicted him. They brought him before charges, impeached him in the House, and tried him in the Senate, and nothing happened. So they kind of got Trump impeachment indictment weary without a effective close to the whole play, and that needs to happen. I wonder, Rosanna, if it makes a difference if the trial is in Florida or in D.C. because it looks
That's what I
like
wondered.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's what I wondered too. It's Florida. Oh my God. I mean Florida's a mess. It's a mess, and but we should really um, take note of what's happening in Florida, because that's going to be attempted throughout the country. The different laws and all of these things. But I think that people need to begin to have take note of how many times this guy has been um, found to be, his misconduct of all kinds of criminal activity, sexual misconduct, all of these kinds of things. Yes, he hasn't gone to jail directly, but it's still noteworthy that it's even being brought to light, because he's not the only one that's a criminal out there. So but I think that, so we shouldn't be disillusioned. We should really push for a real indictment. I want to see him in handcuffs, personally, but that's just me.
You know, Anita, if you listen to Trump, and you watch him, he really is like the epitome of a fascist figure. You know,
Mhm.
the bravado, the arrogance, the "you can't touch me" persona that he puts on. It's like a page out of Nietzsche. You know, and the image of the Ubermensch.
Mhm.
The Overman. That what Nietzsche called that magnificent blonde beast. I mean, that's what he exemplifies that whole. I can do whatever the blankety blank I want,
Mhm.
and I'm and I dare you to try to stop me. Do you get that sense too, or is it just me?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that is he's just extremely arrogant. And but I honestly think that um, accountability is in the future for him. We saw that with the just the verdict in the E. Jean Carroll case, and then he went and further disparaged her the next day and got a further a judgment or case against him on account of that. And this indictment is really serious. I think it's really going to be impactful. And I think the person who's organizing this, well, I guess it's the attorney general, but the independent counselor. Um, I think the reason they have it in Miami instead of Washington, I heard, is because it will protect the case against further delays in the future. So it's supposed to make everything go a little smoother. So I think they've anticipated a lot of the problems, but they say the trial on this won't happen until for maybe 2 years. So it's and he's using it this weekend for fundraising purposes. So it's will
The
remain
trial
to
may
be
be in
seen.
the trial may be in 2 years. Excuse me for interrupting, Scott.
No.
The trial may be in 2 years, but the Pence and DeSantis and Nikki Haley and them, they smell blood. That
So yeah,
the the
I
the,
guess
the, the barracudas are in the water.
so. That's what I'm wondering. The first time impeachment kind of was seriously floated, I forget what year it was. Not long into his presidential term, I wrote an article for the website, basically asking is or looking at the question is does impeachment mean anything? Is it something that we should be pushing for? And the argument I put forth is that yes, impeaching Trump would introduce disarray into the fascist forces. It would work against their the organization of that force, and it would enable us to give us some space to move forward. And I'm kind of thinking about that this morning and wondering, you know, was I right? And what is this indictment going to mean in the you know in the elections coming up? Is there disarray in the GOP over this, or is it um, going to strengthen Trump's hold on the base or whatever?
Well, Rosanna, if you don't like Trump, there's always Cornel West. Cornel, my
That's
brother
just another
announced
joker from.
my brother announced he wants to be president of the United States. Um, any takers? I mean,
I just I can't take him seriously. He's just kind of all over the place. Um, I I uh, I always feel like he's sort of a an opportunist from his history. The different things that he's done or involved. It just seems that it's for Cornell's benefit. But nonetheless, the things that he's putting out, are things that are concerning the working people. But how serious is he? I have a hard time taking him seriously.
you know, Anita, you know,
Mhm.
Cornell back in 2008 didn't get invited to Obama's inauguration. And the guy hasn't really been the same since. He was very disappointed. He had supported the Obama effort and campaign for him. And let's say Cornell has a history.
Mhm.
He wrote, he was a fighter for justice, wrote that important book, Race Matters, which has
Mhm.
almost become a popular, it's like the 99% kind of slogan. But then, he just became so anti hateful of uh, Obama that it seems like he lost all sense and all perspective. And now he's aligned himself with this People's Party outfit. which I hear is a kind of a motley crew.
It certainly is, and even before that, Cornell had a history of being a spoiler. He was a supporter of Nader in 2000, and then he supported Jill Stein in that election in 2016. It really he has a history of this. Um, it's and he's an entertainer. I think that's what Rosanna's getting at as being not serious. He really is just so full of himself and his own ego. But he's a very dangerous person, and I saw um, Rosanna knows I have also TikTok addiction, and I saw some really pointed accusations on TikTok of who is supporting him, who is talking him into this. And Steve Bannon is probably one of the happiest people because he and his ilk have been talking about how to peel black voters away from Joe Biden. And I think that's what this is. And I think people are correct in saying that Cornell is really selling out the working class and selling out his people, whom he claims to represent, by taking this step. It's just despicable.
I don't know how much support he has. I mean, when him and Tavis Smiley did that, I kind of got they were holding rally anti, and I don't think they really got that much traction. But one of the things that's happening, Scott, is that in this People's Party, according to an article I saw, does have a little bit of something something in Florida. And to get on the ballot in Florida, speaking of Nader and the election, oh my God, we could have a hanging Chad scenario. You know, if he got 1-2% of the vote, that could be.
Yeah, and that's a real danger. But I think the larger, I don't know, the larger question or the larger idea behind this for me is, even if um, you know, he's doing this in good faith and he has a great program, supporting the rights of working people. He's a great, candidate critical of imperialism, whatever. Um, Getting the best candidate, the most left, the most progressive, is not, that's not how we see the strategy. The candidacies have to come out of movements. They have to be able to unite people. It's the movement that drives change. It's the movement that makes things possible. And yeah, if there's not a movement surrounding him, and there's not, um, you know, the best platform in the world, the most left, is not going to do anything. And it's really, I think it thinking that we can just choose the best person and cast our vote for that and hope, um, that's a bourgeois approach to elections. It's saying that voting is a way of like expressing your political convictions rather than taking collective action with the working class.
You know,
Mhm.
a lot depends on how he runs. You know, if he runs against the extreme right, you know, that's one thing. But if there's this false equivalency between the Trump movement and the movement behind the Democratic incumbent and the vice president and the congressional majority in the Senate and close to that, and if it's against that platform, those issues, then it's a very, very potentially negative development. And and you could have a repeat of Boer. What do they call him? Boer, Gore, Gore,
Mhm.
Gore, and no disrespect to. I wasn't trying to make a play on words there. It just came out wrong. You could have a repeat of Gore and Bush, and like I said, it's not just Trump that, as an individual, that represents this fascist danger. It's the movement and the class forces that are behind them. And as our party program says, this is not about. This is about one section of the ruling class trying to dominate all other sections and the country as a whole. That's what we're up against, and that's what has to be understood and fought against. So, and then I heard on somebody told me he was on Amy Goodman,
He
Democracy
was.
Now! Yesterday, and the head of that party they caught on tape. Listen to this, using the N word 20 times. And so Amy asked, she said, "Yo, Cornel, how you reconcile?" He was like, "Oh, well, I don't have to agree with everybody or everything
Oh
that they
my.
say. You have to be forgiving." And, huh? Certain things are not forgivable.
Mm-hmm.
They're not forgivable, Cornell. Come off of that. You know better than that. Your mama taught you better than that. No, I ain't having it. No. Okay. Um, Something good happened in the state of Alabama yesterday. The Supreme Court ruled 5-4, saying that the redistricting that took place there amongst the good old boys was denied black people the right to equal representation. And I think that they ordered them, Rosanna, to create a new district. New district.
That's
Big thing.
big thing. Yeah. But I asked myself, how bad was this redistricting that the Supreme Court, that is primarily, uh, right wing, how bad was it that they even voted, in favor of redistricting? So I mean, I just thought, wow, it must have been so horrible that they couldn't do anything but that. I mean, that's my thought.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. And it was 5-4. And Kavanaugh, Anita, voted with the
Right. And
majority
Roberts.
along with Roberts.
Mm-hmm. Voted
So
for the with the five, and it's it's kind of, I mean, it's good they're holding on to the status quo, but it's a little too little too late, because they I guess the lower courts had said that Alabama's map was gerrymandered and diluted minority rights specifically. But then the Supreme Court let them go ahead and have the election with those bad maps. And they're saying that if they had made this ruling earlier and had upheld Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, there could be as many as 7 um, congressional House seats right now that would be in the hands of progressive or
Mm.
non-Republican people. So it would have really, the whole balance of power was in play. So I think I'm looking forward to the redistricting that has to happen in various southern states, hopefully including Florida, where there was a horrible redistricting that limited the voice of black and brown voters in Florida.
So
I'm glad for that
just
vote, Scott, but I'm still not changing my opinion of Kavanaugh. I'm sorry.
oh no, for sure.
I'm
No,
not
and
changing
just on
my
the question of
opinion.
how bad it was, the situation in Alabama, 1 in 4 voters in Alabama is African American. Um, Yet, out of the 7 congressional districts there was only one in which they could elect or have a reasonable chance of electing a candidate of their choice or having real participation in the democratic process. So they were basically gerrymandered into 6 Republican lock districts and 1 black majority district. So yeah, absolutely atrocious, like visible on the surface, the unconstitutionality of it, or the um, absolutely undemocratic nature of it.
Absolutely undemocratic nature of it is correct. But it shows that there are differences in these ruling circles. And it's important for the working class movement tactically and strategic to understand that, and because you have to use whatever you can. You have to take victories where you can get them, and and they're important, and that's what you kind of saw on that debt ceiling vote, because that hard fascist right in that freedom car, they're acting complete fools now, blocking everything, and McCarthy is he's in trouble. But no
They're having a
difference with
tantrum, Joe.
having a tantrum.
Yeah.
They need to get taken out behind the woodshed. That's what they
Hmm.
used to do back in the day with a hickory stick.
I
Anyway,
love
I'm
watching
not,
it.
huh?
I love watching it. I love
You,
watching the Freedom Caucus just totally derail everything that Kevin McCarthy is trying to do. Um, I mean, it shows the absolutely, um, you know, once again, undemocratic and dysfunctional uh, side of the GOP. And apparently now some of the centrist, the more moderate GOP forces are also saying they're not going to work with McCarthy because of being too hardline on abortion. So
I'm
I
glad
hope
you
this.
cleared that up.
Yeah.
I thought you was saying you love hickory sticks. I
No,
didn't-
no, I'm all good without any of that. I don't believe
no
in
corporal
corporal
punishment.
punishment for anybody.
No. I heartily agree. Let's move the agenda. Um, the day was Wednesday. I got a note from a good friend of mine who lives upstate. She said, "Joe, how's your breathing?" I said, "Huh?" Because I was in the office. She said, "It's terrible outside." And I didn't know I took a step outside and I felt like I was in the middle of a forest fire because the smoke and smog was dense. It's all get out. And Roxana, I know you have to live that every day in LA, but it was
No,
worse.
not
Matter
that
of fact,
bad. I've,
not that bad, huh?
no, it's never been that bad here. It has been bad, but not to the pictures that I've seen.
This is scary. Climate change, Anita.
Yeah. Yeah, they're saying that's the reason for the proliferation of wildfires. It's only the beginning of wildfire season, and there's just hundreds of square miles on fire in Canada right now, and it just and then that all that burning forest means even more carbon is in the atmosphere. So it's just an all around bad situation, and I mean, this might be the first time with New York evidently was the epicenter of the problem. I guess for some reason the smoke congealed on Manhattan, and it will be. I hope people start to take climate change maybe more seriously because of that, because they have experienced those effects so directly.
Scott, when I was a young man, we went to, I must have been 17 or 18. That was back in the day when I had hair. And we went down to Steubenville, Ohio to meet and visit with the party club down there. It was a beautiful sunny day. I mean, beautiful. And we got within like 2 or 3 miles of Steubenville and started to get smoky and foggy. We thought it was going to rain. We got to Steubenville and it was like you couldn't see 4 feet in front of you. And it stayed that way. And then when we left, sunshine again. And then I later found out that the reason was that the mills, the steel mills, were pumping all that pollution in the air. And Steubenville sits in the valley and it's surrounded by mountains, and the air didn't have nowhere to go. So I guess that's what happened in Manhattan. Ain't no mountains around Manhattan, but the air got trapped here and just kind of settled. Did you smell it up where you are?
Yeah, it was pretty bad on Wednesday in particular. Not quite as bad as the city in terms of the air quality numbers, but it was, even being outside for a couple minutes, driving to the store to get some, groceries, and I got a headache from it. And I think one of the things that's worth pointing out is that these conditions of horrible atmospheric pollution are, you know something that people in some places have to live with on a much more continuous basis. Um, you know, there's been attention to the rate of the incidence of asthma among people who live near coal burning power plants, which tend to be lower income and often black and brown people. Uh, and we see those problems are not getting better; they're getting worse. They're getting more generalized. This climate crisis is something that puts all of us at risk. It's not something that we can ignore. Even like even me living way out in the country, away from any. There are no big uh, mills here. There's no. I'm not in a city, but it's inescapable, and it's something that has to be addressed on. It can only be addressed collectively. There's no individual solution for it.
We're approaching existential crises. And when I say existential, that's one of them $20 words. I mean, a crisis of existence where the future of humanity is at stake. You keep poo-pooing it, and it's not just climate change. Now it's also artificial intelligence. It's artificial intelligence. They got these super smart computers now that are capable of reasoning, and they're the guy that was considered the godfather, who was working for Google, quit Google because he got scared of it himself, you know, and he put his finger on capitalism as the problem with respect to how to find techniques to moderate it, because there's so much competition between different companies in different countries, and they're arming these smart weapons with AI. And he said that, you can't tell what's going to happen. In fact, we should have a program devoted to that. The communist movement has to come up with an approach to understanding and proposals for addressing it. So you just add that to the list of biological, bacteriological, nuclear, climate change, and now digital intelligence. In fact, he said it may be the case that human intelligence is just a passing phase in the evolution of intelligence to be replaced by digital intelligence. Imagine someone saying that. Anyway, I
Well,
mean, this is
where's the profit on the Joe?
huh?
Where would be the profit on in that?
Well, it would be a communist society, because why would computers need money?
Right.
I don't know. The Star Trek scenarios.
Exactly.
Um, let's move the agenda. Speaking of AI, by the way, when it gets out bad like that, wear your N95 mask, y'all. It's not. It'll help. It'll help clear the airways. Don't throw them away, because the pandemic ain't over anyway. Scott, you brought us an interesting story about union busting and AI. Fill us in.
Yeah. So it's kind of a that's capitalism sort of thing. So the National Eating Disorder Association has a helpline, staffed largely by volunteers, but there are a small number of paid staff, and they were in the process of organizing a union. So the National Eating Disorder Association decided to fire them and replace them with AI. It wasn't ChatGPT, it was a different, less sophisticated program. But in any case, it didn't last very long, because the program started giving really, really dangerous advice to the people that called in. Apparently, it was telling people calling in to talk about eating disorders, to count their calories carefully, aim for a 1,000 calorie deficit every day, just things that are not medically appropriate in any way. And so they ended up pulling the plug on the AI helpline. I'm not sure if the paid staff have been brought back or what the status is currently, but it just kind of demonstrates the dangers of, you know, the capitalist drive for maximum profits and for maximum control over workers. They're not interested. Like, capitalism is not a great way of providing services to people.
We have to start a new tradition on Good Morning Revolution, the capitalist idiot of the week. I mean, how gross could you can't get much more. They bust the union, and then they tell people who have eating disorders pretty close to saying stop eating 1,000 calories a day. Ooh, crimes against humanity. We ought to write that one up. And well, until next week, everybody, stay strong, stay safe. If it's smoky
Wear your
outside,
mask.
wear a mask. And tomorrow morning, 11 o'clock, we're holding forth on the party program. Go to cpusa.org, sign up for the GoToWebinar class. In the morning, I'm leading it. And then in the afternoon, half hour later, Joelle on the importance of party clubs. You don't want to miss it. Until next week, stay in the fight. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Later, comrades.
Bye, everybody.
Don't listen to no chat, whatever it's called.